duo of Brevin Holmes is back for episode 25. Today, we want to talk about how to move into your custom home quicker or faster. And we recognize that we spend a lot of time talking about the three core elements of building. That's building with speed, the financial aspect, or how much is the home going to cost, and then certainly, last but not least, the quality. And you have those three pillars as we talk about. And so today we wanted to dive in a little bit more about how you can build your home faster and what you can do from a homeowner's perspective, even though you're not building your own house with your own two hands. So we broke this down into three little segments. What you can do to speed it up during the pre-construction phase, which is probably the most impactful and the largest piece of where you can either lose time or speed things up to get into your dream home faster. The second thing is picking an efficient builder, making sure that you have chosen the right builder to build efficiently and not have a lot of down days or days where nothing is getting done. And last but not least, your responsiveness while the home is under construction. So after pre-construction, what that looks like for you, what's expected of you to make sure that there aren't any delays that you're causing the builder and yourself. So Stephen, let's jump into pre-construction.
Awesome intro. I think pre-construction, just like you mentioned, is the biggest opportunity for folks to speed their custom home build up. As we've talked about, pre-construction can be half the battle. On a typical home, which I say very average size, something 2,500 to 3,500 square feet, somewhere in there. Pre-construction could be anywhere from 4 months on the low end, I would say, all the way up to a year, really. What the homeowners can do. So our listeners, if you're listening to this, you're about to start building your custom home, you want to know, how do I get into it quicker? Or we like to use the word efficiently, more efficiently, is the way that we build. Quicker has sometimes a negative connotation, makes people think that maybe there's some things that are getting done rushed or a little too quickly, and quality or something else might be sacrificed at that point. But efficiency is the key here. So to be efficient during the pre-construction process for our listeners and for the homeowner side of things, really making quick decisions, going back and forth with the architect quicker, really getting your builder answers when they're asking for them, all the way through the selections process. So interior selections, exterior selections, working with your lender a lot quicker as well, getting them the documents that they request instead of sitting on it for a week or 2 weeks or things like that. All those, let me get back to it next week whenever I'm back traveling from work, or let me get back to it next weekend whenever I'm back in town or have time off or whatever. Those weeks start to add up. And in that pre-construction process, there's a lot of things that have to happen, and some of them can happen simultaneously. The quicker our homeowners and listeners can get through the pre-construction process, that, like we said, that's half the battle. So.
We define pre-construction as anything that really starts with the completion of a finished floor plan or a finished set of plans from the architect. So there's different ways of looking at pre-construction. Sometimes we can say, hey, that's included, but really where things can pick up with the builder taking action on a lot of things is once a completed plan set is done, right? They're builders, as we talk about in other podcasts. Ideally, we would like to be involved in the design phase with an architect to help value engineer, give you guidance, consult as you're designing the home with the architect. But there's not much else that the builder can do at that point, right? So there's not really anything else, Stephen, that comes to mind that we can do concurrently until there is a completed 100% finished plan set. And then that's where a lot of things can happen concurrently. There's things that have to happen in succession with each other. And a builder like ourselves, we have some documents that we use, a selection document that guides the homeowners through a very detailed process of selections, really a pre-construction timeline or Gantt chart as well on okay, these are the things that have to go in chronological order because we can't do this until we do this. And that's typically what takes the most amount of time. The things that you can do concurrently, like, hey, I'm working on the construction loan while I'm making selections or whatever it may be. That's what you want to try and compress as much as you can. So you're doing multiple things at once. The other thing to point out here is pre-construction, unless if you've never done it before, it can seem like, oh, how much is there to do? We typically say in pre-construction, in terms of the amount of work and effort and time it takes for the builder, pre-construction ends up being, Stephen, correct me if you think I'm a little off here, but anywhere from 20 to 40% of the amount of work from the first time you engage a builder to when the home is complete for the builder. So there's a lot of work that goes into pre-construction on all the engineering things that we talk about on most of these episodes. So I would just say that this is such a heavy focus because you may not realize, but you're going to make hundreds, if not over 1,000 decisions at this time before the house is before anything even begins with construction.
Yep. Yeah, well said. And I would completely agree that there's a lot of big decisions to be made in that pre-construction process. Of course, there's going to be little decisions here and there throughout the actual building of it or the construction phase, but the big decisions and the bulk of the decisions are made in that pre-construction phase for sure. I like how you clarified what we're talking about with pre-construction, because you're right, that can be kind of a gray area of when does that actually start. And I would say even all the way back to the design process. So when our listeners are thinking, how can I speed up the entire process? It's all the way from conception of, I want to build a custom home. Let me start looking at lots. Let me start working with an architect to design plans. Let me start shopping with builders, things like that. All of those decisions, the faster and the quicker that homeowners, future homeowners and listeners can make those decisions, it really speeds up the process. Now, like we said, some of those are big decisions. So don't rush the ones that don't feel right to you to make a quick decision on. But we've seen some of our clients that just weren't very opinionated people, which played out really well for them. I mean, we built their home in I think we built it in less than 10 months. And they had a neighbor right behind them that their house dragged on for over 2 years. So we were not the builder on the over 2 year one. So I want to clarify there, but just to give you an example, I mean, those homeowners were very decisive, knew what they wanted, didn't put too much thought or emphasis into decisions, and didn't just let it kind of rattle around in their brain for weeks on end, trying to figure out what they wanted. So yeah, those are some of our smoothest and most efficient builds, is when the homeowners can give us those quick answers.
And I would also say that it's okay to not have a decision right away. It's not about, yes, you need to be decisive, and yes, you need to hopefully not let decisions drag out to where it is slowing down the progress of your home. But as Stephen said, there are some big decisions that we don't expect you to make a decision on the spot, right? Everybody's different. Everybody's unique. If it's a big decision to you, I always find when I run across those decisions that sometimes sleeping on it for a day or two is really needed, right? You have some thoughts, but then you go to sleep, you wake up the next morning and you think about it some more, and you have a different take sometimes. Sometimes you don't, but waiting for a day or two on a big decision isn't gonna slow it down. It's what Stephen and I are referring to is when you're have decisions in front of you and it's delaying things by weeks, right? That's where you start to see it add up and say, hey, okay, we are not going to be getting into this home as quickly as we could. And if that's not a priority, then that's fine. But the decision ultimately has to be made at some point to get to the finish line.
Yep. Yeah. And I like how you said that too, that, this whole podcast episode is geared towards how to speed up your build. And if that's not your goal, and your goal is to really focus in on what you want and making clear decisions and sleeping on it for a couple nights and things like that, then yeah, I mean, this podcast episode might not be for you, but we're really trying to explain to people how they can speed up their build.
I would also add to that if speed is not your concern, a a lot of delays or one lengthy delay, or hey, I'm not concerned about speed, will end up costing you from a
Yeah.
financial perspective, right? Whether you have a construction loan and you're paying interest on the money that has been drawn every single month, or you're paying cash, it doesn't matter. There's still a cost associated with a home or a project that has not been completed, and it's not in the best interest of the builder either, right? So the builder wants to get it done as quickly and efficiently as they can, and of course some do that much better than others, and that's why we're going to jump into topic number two here in a second. But um, as we always talk about, all the three pillars of price, time, and quality are all interconnected. They're interwoven. So while you might say, hey, I'm an indecisive person, speed isn't my concern, well, it's going to start to bleed over into the financial aspect of the
Yeah.
project.
Very good note. Very good note there. I think that pretty much covers the pre-construction stuff. So let's jump into the next part of how do you speed up that actual construction phase. Um, and there's a couple, I think there's probably two different points to talk about here, but yeah, I would say the first one being picking an efficient builder, right? So you want to hit on that and tell the listeners how they can pick a more efficient builder to really get partnered with the right builder to help promote that quicker build.
We have a podcast that we've done on how to choose a builder that I strongly suggest you go back and listen to if you have not listened to that or didn't know that we have that. So that's one thing that comes to mind. But I think some other takeaways for how to choose a builder is to ask them the right questions. We talk about that interview process and how to choose that builder, but ask them questions around their how quickly they build, how efficient are they, uh, what is their current backlog, how many homes are they building. It's okay to ask them about their general business. How many homes are they building, and how many project managers do they have? How many uh, how many houses is the project manager that you're going to assign to my house? How many are they going to be running concurrently? That's a critical thing to know, and it's a fair question for you to ask, because uh, that's ultimately going to be the manager who is driving the schedule and keeping things on track or falling off track. So if you find a project manager, you get that answer to that question, and they say, "Oh, project manager is going to be working 4 other custom homes and yours." That's more than a full work week, and that's not going to be a recipe for an efficient build that could be done as quickly as possible. So there's in general, you want to be looking at from a project manager perspective. Stephen, what do you think about in the custom home world, each one being a home that's never been built before? I would say a project manager should have no more than 2 to 3 homes on their plate at one time. Now, there's timing of that and how many they're where those houses are in construction, what phase they're in, and things like that. But I would say any more than that, they're going to be in over their head in terms of managing that project
Yeah,
efficiently.
and I would argue that it's not that easy to just say that if your construction manager has 2 homes on his plate, he's going to be better or worse than somebody who has 5 homes on their plate. It depends on the scope of the projects. It also depends on, like you mentioned, the timeline of those projects. If they're all lined up and going at the same rate, then it can help at some points. But then when you get towards the end, it's really hard to finish multiple homes at the same time. So um, and then it also goes back to the trade base too. Are you pulling the same trades to work on 5, 6, 10 homes at a time? And can they support that? Or are they maxed out at only doing 3 homes at a time for one plumber or something like that? Right. And if that's the case, how does your builder combat that? Are they going to go find another plumber? Are they going to put you on the wait list until the plumber's available? So things
Yeah.
to think about, questions to ask your
Good.
builder, um, and definitely something to be aware of, that if your house is sitting, well, why is it sitting? And ask the builder, hey, what's going on? Is it weather related? Is it a material delay that maybe something that was selected is not readily available and you're waiting on that because it's a key component to keep the home build progressing? These are all things that a good builder should have foresight on, though. If you pick some custom appliances that have a 2-year lead time, Of course, that's going to be a slowdown as you get towards the end of your project. You're not going to be able to finish that home completely until those appliances, things like that, are in stock. Specialty tile, same
Yeah.
things. I mean, those kind of things that if that's what you want, that's great. But just know that that comes at the cost of probably slowing down the project. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I would say it's certainly not just about the project manager. You need to look at the back office functions, right? What is the project manager expected to do for your project with that builder, but what other support do they have, right? And not that you need to know how they run their business from every little corner of their office, but it's okay to ask those questions just to gain a better understanding of that efficiency and say, okay, what are the potential reasons that my house could be slowed down during construction, right? I mean, they are interview questions, and it's okay to ask those
I would
questions.
also say that a lot of builders in America are small, just family owned or one person owned businesses. And so they might not have a construction manager. It might be one guy or one girl that's running 3 homes on their own and also running the business and doing the financing and updating all the trades and getting insurance and doing everything for the business. And that's okay, definitely, but make sure that you know that going into the build with that builder, and also ask them these kind of questions that how does one person manage all of that effectively, and have you proven your success in doing that on other homes with other clients, and ask those other clients, how long did it take this builder to build your home, and was it a smooth process, was it efficient, was there a lot of delay time in the middle of the build, that kind of stuff, just to start asking those questions and get the answers that you're looking for.
We can't recommend reaching out to past clients or past homeowners enough, right, Stephen? I mean, that gives you a great understanding of what their experience was like, and where things went well, where things could have been improved.
Absolutely. I think that nails how to pick an efficient builder. And like Brian mentioned, we did do a podcast, an entire episode on how to pick a builder, how to choose a builder. And that was episode number 5 for anybody that wants to go back and listen to it. Definitely a great episode and provides a lot of insight on, a lot more concepts than just the efficiency or the speed of the builder. Talked about a lot more things. I would say, going into the next topic though. So as far as the construction phase, what's one other area that people can really help the builder speed up their build? This kind of falls back on the homeowner, the client, but how is that going to help them, or what can they do?
Yeah, this overlaps quite a bit with what we talked about during the pre-construction phase, but it's really about, once the home is under construction, what's expected of you as the client, as the homeowner. And it really comes down to being responsive and making sure that you're handling things as they come in. Now, you've made hundreds, like I said, if not thousands of decisions during pre-construction, but there will still be things that come up, or decisions that need to be made, or conversations that need to be had during construction. That's absolutely normal. It happens on every project. But I think where we have seen, in our experience, we've seen some delays is we reach out to a homeowner. They say, hey, we need to think about it or whatever. That's perfectly fine. But then there's no response or no decision. And then it starts to impact the timeline of construction. So it could be a decision on where to put something that wasn't talked about during pre-construction, or it could even be the financial aspect, right? Getting construction loan draws when the builder needs more money, you sign off on that for the construction loan draw with the bank if you're financing, and if you take delays on that, the builder might not be able to pay the bills to schedule more trades to continue progress on the build. So those are some things that come to mind, but I think it's of course being responsive, being decisive within reason. Again, not same day. If it's a big decision, you certainly have the right to sleep on it for a night or two. And ultimately, supporting the builder with whatever they need, right? At that point, when you're in construction, a lot of the work should have already been done in terms of making those decisions and making selections, of course. But things still come up.
Yeah, absolutely. And you already said it, but there's a a bunch of things that come up during the build that could have never been planned and also could have never been seen just from 2D floor plans or blueprints. As you start building that home and as you get through the engineering and you get through some of the structural stuff, I mean, there's things in the plans almost every single home we build, especially custom homes that have never been built before on somebody's individual land. Every single home is so unique that there's things that we run into that we have to have homeowner input. This is going to be your home. How do you want this to turn out? How do you envision this? We can interpret the plans one way, but it might not be the way that the homeowners want to see it. And there's some ambiguity in there when we're looking at a 2D floor plan that just isn't 100% painting the picture of what we needed to see. And our trades will have questions as well. And so when our trades ask questions that we as the builder cannot answer, don't have the authority to answer for a homeowner, then we ask the homeowner. And the quicker we can get those answers back, just like you mentioned, that's what's going to help speed up the construction process of the home. Another thing I want to mention too is change orders. Change orders are something that can be a huge, they're very important. I want to start by saying that, but they can also be a huge roadblock or speed bump in the build when you bring up a change order in the middle of the build and the builder has to either backtrack or has to pause construction to go get quotes and not jump forward past the point of this change order that you've brought up. So really trying to have that foresight, and as you're seeing the home being built, as soon as you think of something, bring it to your builder's attention that, hey, is this possible? Is this something we could do? Talk through it openly with your builder and see, what would this do? And they'll tell you, hey, it's going to cost this much more. It's going to delay construction by this amount of time. And they should tell you all that stuff. But the more change orders that you throw at your builder, of course, that's going to change the timeline of your build as well. So if you can really eliminate those or try to minimize those change orders, that helps a ton as well from a building speed perspective. If the builder can just go ahead and plow through and build exactly what has been discussed from pre-construction, makes everybody's job a lot easier. But of course, we know with custom homes and homeowners paying a lot of money for this asset that they want to get into, they want it to be the way they want it. So change orders are common. They're definitely understandable, and it's something that we have to work through on almost every build, I would say. But it's just, how do we execute those the most efficient way possible?
Yep, absolutely. And then from there should be a completed house within the time frame that hopefully your builder set forth and set your expectations on from fairly early on in the process, right? That's the ultimate goal. And Stephen, it's scary how many projects we see go past the anticipated timeline just because of a number of reasons that could have been avoided. And a lot of that is managing expectations, both from an internal perspective, but also with the homeowner, and being reasonable, but having fair and realistic expectations.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And as picking a good builder, they should have the decency or the courtesy to tell you when there's been a delay in construction. Hey, we had to wait for 3 weeks to get your tile that you picked that was somewhat custom and it wasn't readily available. Unfortunately, that's going to slow down the build by 3 weeks, and we're going to have to push your move-in date back by 3 weeks. Knowing that stuff in the middle of the build or even at the beginning of the build, hey, we had a lot of rain during foundation phase, slowed us down by 2 weeks. Let's add that on to the end of the project so that you're not getting to the end of the project still expecting it to finish by Christmas and your builder's expecting it to finish by Valentine's Day or something like that, right? You've had a whole month of slowdowns throughout the project. Your builders should have seen that and should have documented that and be able to tell you that from an early on point of construction that, hey, you know what, we've hit some delays. Your home's going to be delayed by a little bit. That open communication and that proactiveness of telling the homeowners what their build timeline's looking like is very important.
Yeah. No, communication is key, as you just stated. And also from a perception standpoint, the perception that a lot of people get is that the build progresses really quick from foundation through framing into mechanicals and insulation, and some of the exterior can come up fairly quickly. And then they see this house and they see the drywall in and they see the trim in, and they're like, hey, our house is almost complete. But in terms of timeline, yes, it's almost complete, but there's a lot of work that still has to be done, a whole lot of work. So you see, the perception is you see a quick amount of progress in what we call phase one, from foundation to drywall, faster than the second stage. But that's all the finish outs, that's all the trim, it's all the details, it's all the punch work, it's what you see and what you live and breathe every day. And so, not that goes slower, it's just that there's a lot more to do and less progress that's being seen.
Yeah, very good point there. One last thing I want to talk about is there's kind of a cheat code to getting into a home instantly with a custom builder, and that's what we call speculative home. So if a builder has built a speculative home or an available home that's already on the ground, it's already completed, you can call your builder or call any builder and say, hey, what available homes do you have right now? Or what spec homes do you have on the ground? Those are homes that they've already completed, most likely, or are already building with no buyer in mind. They're building them on speculation, and that's exactly why they're called spec homes, that they can sell them when they're complete for the price point that the builder is looking for. So those are that's a little cheat code that if you're not married to a floor plan and you just want to get into an area as soon as possible, start calling up some builders, shop the area and see what homes are coming up and what homes are already on the market that are brand new, a builder's already finished, and you can get into that home. It's of course not custom to you, but it's still a custom home with a custom builder, and you can get into those homes instantly. I mean, as soon as they're done, and fast forward this entire process of not having to make pre-construction decisions, not having to make construction decisions, not having to deal with construction loan and financing in that sense. But like we said, it comes at the expense or the caveat that you don't get to make any of the selections. You have to just roll with it and pick a home that was not custom to you. So yeah, to each his own, but some people really find that to be beneficial and can get them into an area much quicker if they want to be in before school year, but be in before the holidays so they can host for Thanksgiving or whatever. We've seen that to be good success too.
Yep. Spec homes make sense for a lot of people that we talk about timing. Like we said, you want to get in quickly. You find that brand new home, custom home that has never been lived in before, and you make it your own, right? You make that house your home, and it's a great option for a lot of people. So
definitely.
And furthermore, last thing I'll add, if any of our listeners have questions around, of course, anything, but specifically this topic around speed or how to work with an efficient builder, we would love to hear from you, right? The listeners that we've heard from, we absolutely enjoy it and want to hear from you more. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We love having those conversations and add value wherever we can.
Absolutely. One more thing to add on that. We thank everybody for listening to our podcast. If you've made it this far in the episode, if you can do us a favor and follow or subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, even comments or whatever else, just doing all the things for the algorithms. If you can like the podcast or whatever's going on at this time with the algorithms, that helps us tremendously to get this out to more people that can benefit from our podcast. So that's all we ask. We just ask that you guys help grow the podcast and help us with that. And yeah, we look forward to putting out more good content for everybody.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, cool. Good episode, Brian. Thanks for talking about efficient builds and how people can move in quicker.
Yep. Awesome. Same to you. Thank you. All right. Very good.
Yeah, that was good. Knocked it.